And then
I haven't heard that. I mean, Roger's a very good friend of mine, and Peter's obviously, he's been doing a great job.
did you know what he
I
was
haven't
going
heard.
to say?
Let me look at. You tell me something. I have not heard
The
about this.
question I had is, were you aware of what Secretary Hegseth was going to say in his speech at NATO?
Generally speaking, yeah. Generally speaking, I was. So I'll speak to Roger. I'll speak to Pete. I'll find out.
Mr.
Why
President.
did you
Just
not
on the
read it?
Energy Dominance Council, that's
Yeah.
for all forms of energy? Does that include
All
wind and
forms of
solar?
energy. Yep.
And the pipeline you mentioned, sir, is that Constitution pipeline in New York?
Yes.
Can you, is
Yes.
that the
I
project?
believe
that's
so,
being-
right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is. And, you know, they've been trying to get it for 20 years. And what it means is for New York, upstate New York, and even everywhere in New York, also other states, but in particular New England, that New England will now, I think, will cut the energy prices, and big cuts in New York too, but cut the energy prices literally in half. We have the permits. We have permits that just about everything we need a New York permit, and I would imagine they want to do because their energy prices will come down so far. And it's a lot of jobs for New York. It's a great thing for New York. Everybody wants it. We'll be meeting with the various governors, Governor of New York, and the other governors too. And we can have it built in about 9 months, and let's say 1 year, but we can actually have it built in pretty close to 9 months. It's all set. We have most of the permits, almost all of the permits.
And on just, you're prioritizing energy dominance today, you've also prioritized trade balance. The oil industry is a little worried about the steel tariffs. I mean, they put 20,000 feet of steel in the ground at a well. How will you balance that? Is there a possibility?
You're talking about steel and aluminum.
Indeed, steel tariffs.
So the steel, I saved the steel industry in my first term by putting on tariffs because China was dumping massive amounts of steel. Others also, but mostly China. And I put very substantial, we took in $600 billion worth of tariffs from China. No other president's taken up, literally haven't gotten 10 cents from China, not 10 cents. And hundreds of billions of dollars came in from China. And they understood it. They understood what I did. But the dumping stopped. And had I not done that, you wouldn't have one steel mill, I think I can say, not one steel mill operating in this country. And we need steel. We need steel. I mean, there are some things you have to have, and steel is one of them for military, et cetera. So I think steel is going to be very strong. It's going to be very strong. I think it'll go back to being really powerful. We saved it. I mean, we were talking about U.S. Steel last week. U.S. Steel would have been closed, totally closed. We saved it. And now it's going to become, I think, very, very profitable. The tariffs are going to save a lot of industries.
Mr. President,
U.S. Steel, can I just follow up on U.S.
Yeah,
Steel
go-
just
go
very
ahead,
quickly,
finish
sir? If the Japanese company that's interested in U.S. Steel wants to take a minority stake as opposed to full ownership, is
A
that
minority
fine?
stake I wouldn't mind greatly, but what they're doing right now is they're going to be investors, and they're going to be investing in, I think, debt and various other things. But we didn't want to let U.S. Steel go to a foreign company. U.S. Steel was the greatest company in the world for a period of 15 years. It was, you know, it was the big deal 80 years ago or so. And psychologically, we can't even think about letting that happen. But what is going to happen, and we've already seen it, you see it in the stock price, with the tariffs, U.S. Steel is going to be a real powerhouse again.
Mr. President, I can just follow up on Jackie's question about Munich. Vice President Vance's speech to the conference has ruffled quite a few feathers in Europe.
What did he say to ruffle them? I don't know.
He was talking about the freedom of speech and migration in Europe. Do you believe that European leaders have a fundamentally different view of the world than this administration's?
Well, I heard his speech, and I tell you, you're talking about JD's speech, right?
Yes, sir.
I heard his speech, and he talked about freedom of speech, and I think it's true in Europe. It's losing. They're losing their wonderful right of freedom of speech. I see it. I mean, I thought he made a very good speech, actually, a very brilliant speech. Yeah. Europe has to be careful. And he talked about immigration. And Europe has a big immigration problem. Just take a look at what's happened with crime. Take a look at what's happening in various parts of Europe. I thought his speech was very well received, actually. I've heard very good remarks.
And in regards to Ukraine as well, yesterday you mentioned that you thought Ukraine's NATO aspirations were one of the main reasons that the war broke out. Who do you blame for the war, Ukraine or Russia?
Well, I think that there were a lot of people to blame. All I can say is very simply, if I were president, that war would never have happened. And you know what else wouldn't have happened? The Middle East wouldn't be all blown up, and October 7th wouldn't have happened either. Those two areas, you wouldn't have inflation, you wouldn't have October 7th, you wouldn't have Russia and Ukraine fighting. None of those things would have happened if I were president.
So to follow up on the
Mr.
Middle
President?
East, earlier this week.
Yeah, please.
You mentioned auto tariffs the other day.
Yeah.
When do you plan to unroll?
Howard, I'd say over the next, sometime, or maybe around April 2nd. I would have done them on April 1st, believe it or not. I'm a little superstitious. No, literally, we had it planned for April 1st. I said, let's make it April 2nd. You know how much money that costs? That costs a lot of money just that one day, but we're going to do it on April 2nd, I think. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay? Thank you.
The lead prosecutor in Eric Adams' case resigned today, saying anyone who didn't press forward would be a coward. What's your reaction to that and to the overall implication that politics were at play here?
Well, I don't know about it. I mean, obviously, I'm not involved in that. But I would say this, that if they had a problem, and these are mostly people from the previous administration, you understand, so they weren't going to be there anyway. They were going to all be gone or dismissed. If not, they know on Tuesday they're all being dismissed. You know, the whole country is being, because what you do is you come in and you put new people in. So when you say resign, they're going to be gone anyway. But I know nothing about the individual case. I know that they didn't feel it was much of a case. They also felt that it was unfair with the election. Look, I would know that better than anybody because I was weaponized more than any human being in the history probably of the world. And I won the election in a landslide, winning all 7 swing states, winning the popular vote and everything else. Because the people got it. It was weaponized. And I was weaponized literally weeks before the election. But I think there's also something to be said. I read that. There's something to be said for what they were doing. It looked to me to be very political. But why didn't they bring this up like 4 or 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, or whenever it happened? You know, they just sat around and didn't complain. Then all of a sudden they complain, and they know they're all being dismissed anyway. So, you know, that's the way it is. That's called politics, I guess.
Mr. President?
Yeah, please.
Earlier this week, you predicted that all hell would break loose if Hamas didn't hand over all of their hostages. What do you expect to happen tomorrow in terms of
I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow at 12 o'clock. It was up to me. I'd take a very hard stance. I can't tell you what Israel's going to do. But I watched the last people come out, and I looked at a before and an after picture. One guy was a big, strong, healthy guy. You could say he was a little bit overweight. He's not overweight anymore. He looks like he just came out of the Holocaust. It looks like a Holocaust picture. I've looked at him for a long time, and they've been treated very badly. A young lady came out last week. Her hand was blown off. I mean, literally, her hand was trying to stop a bullet that was headed for her face. She put up her hand. She goes like this and wiped out her fingers and a lot of her hand. Now, I would take a different stance, but it depends. Look, it depends what Bibi's going to do. It depends what Israel's going to do. But and now I understand they've totally changed. Hamas has totally changed. They want to release hostages now again. But you have to see, this started by them saying, we're not going to release the hostages as we said we were. I said, good. You have till 12 o'clock on Saturday, which is tomorrow at 12 o'clock, to do it. And we didn't hear anything. Then all of a sudden, 2 days ago, they said, no, we've decided we're going to release the hostages. So, but I actually think they should release all of the hostages. Remember, they're probably as bad as they looked. I mean, I don't like to say that, but they looked real bad 4 days ago, 5 days ago when I saw them. And the young ladies that came out were treated really badly. You don't know what happened, but I do. They were treated really badly. But as bad as they look, the ones that follow probably will look a lot worse. I think they're sending out their most healthy. And they've been hit hard on that, Hamas. So they probably didn't want to release. But they changed their mind. I said 12 o'clock tomorrow, and all of a sudden 2 days ago, yesterday, they said they're going back to releasing. But this all started by them saying, we are not going to release any more hostages. And then yesterday they said they are going to release the hostages. But I think they should release all of the hostages.
Do you have a about 75,000 workers took this deferred resignation. It's a little bit short of the 5 to 10% goal you were hoping to hit. Do you think you'll have to make up the rest of that number in
No,
layoffs?
look, that's 75,000 more than we would have had, and nobody knows what that final number is, because in the end, I think a lot of people aren't going to show up to work. A lot of people, they got used to staying home and quote, working. But, you know, I wonder if they had other jobs or other things. You know, they have a lot of problems with that. No, 75,000 is a lot of people. And we paid them well. You know, we gave them a lot of months of severance pay, if you call it that. But no, I think you'll probably have some more too, in addition. It's a big, tremendous saving for our. We want to downsize government, but make it better. Run it better, but downsize. Yeah, please.
So can I ask about the UK? I understand that you had a phone call with Keir Starmer
I
yesterday.
did. I just signed a letter to him. He asked for a meeting, and I agreed to the meeting. We're going to have a friendly meeting. Very good. We have a lot of good things going on. But he asked to come and see me, and I just accepted his asking.
Do you have a date for that, sir? And what do you hope to
Very soon. I think he wants to come next week or the week after.
And what do you hope to discuss?
I don't know. It was his request, not mine. But, you know, I've met him twice already. We get along very well. He's a very nice guy. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.
Will there be carve-outs, sir?
Thank you, press.
In the
Thank you.
tariffs?
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you, guys.